Well, hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. I'm Corny Swiss, and today we're driving around Centurion 3 and then the Tortoise on a realistic battle on Kursk. Now, this is the single cap conquest mode. Is it conquest? Probably. And the cap is down there in the sort of northeastern part of the map and down on the low ground. And this is on 1.57, so we have New Kursk. Now, New Kursk isn't that different from Old Kursk. The real difference is the two little villages they've set up. I haven't looked at the western part of the map, but so little of the fighting actually happens over there, in my opinion, that... Because you think about it, the objective is almost always in the middle of the map, which is that ridge, the infamous ridge, or it's in the lower ground over here. It's very rarely on the western part of the map. So, this is the two parts of the map we care about. And you'll note on the mini-map, and also just by me scanning around, that there's now two little villages. And in a way I dig that, in a way I don't. So, what I like about it is it can attempt to break up the monotony of this map. Because it used to be... when this map first came out, a very long time ago, probably back in like CBT days, I really don't remember when this map came out, but it was one of the first, because we had the three original maps, was it Ash River, Jungle, and Kuban, and then they added Kursk in only Simulator Battle, or something like that. And this map kind of was a game changer, because it was much bigger than all the others, and it was these big wide open fields, and it really gave the impression of what tank warfare was, sort of these longer range engagements, which is pretty sweet. It kind of devolved into this, one side takes one ridge, one side takes the other ridge, and they snipe at each other for a while, and one team eventually rushes forward or gets a flank and just wins because they just overwhelm. I think these little villages can actually allow for some type of fighting in those key areas that's not determined by people sitting back almost by their spawn on these ridges. It gives a chance for tanks that are not adept at long-range combat to find a place. However, it is also a little sad because there's a lot of tanks that really benefit from close-range engagements and long-range engagements. So I think a lot of Russian tanks are completely neutral to the changes. I think their life stays the same. Yeah, those 122mm guns are equally good for, and even the 100mm guns are equally good for knocking out tanks at range or close. So I don't think much changes there. And like the 8.0 battle rating, everything's the same because everyone kills everyone at every range. So, there's not much different there. It's just whether or not you hit them right, or if they hit you right. That's something, this is something else. I've seen a lot of people, I've been playing a lot more War Thunder recently. I hope that's apparent just for a number of reasons. I go through these cycles with games where I'll go through a period where I just play the shit out of it, and then I'll go through a period where I just don't want to. And I was in that kind of period with War Thunder. It's going to happen. It happens with every game I play. Any game that doesn't have a predetermined end, I go through these phases with. But, yeah. It's nice to see all the same names. I see a lot of familiar faces. Not faces, because I haven't seen their faces. But, names, and people say, oh, hello, say hi, whatever. And a lot of people who have seen me recently have been noting that I've been driving the Chieftain. And you're 100% right. I'm working on Chieftain review. Getting kind of close with it. I want to experiment with a couple more things, but we're getting there. And it'll be shortly followed by a Centurion 10 review and a Tortoise review somewhere in there too. But I've been playing a lot of the 8.0 battle rating, and it's a lot of reminding me why I don't like that battle rating. I dig the whole idea that the armor really plays no part in anything. I'm okay with that. It's basically, I can kill you, you can kill me. Now let's play tactically and decide who gets to win. But the problem is I guess my fundamental issue is I don't like Heat FS. I don't like that whole idea. I don't like how that's so prevalent. Well, basically my thought is either every tank should have it or no tank should have it. I don't think there's any tanks that... Well, I'm going to hesitate to say this. I was going to say I don't think there's any tanks that need it to survive, but I think there could be a couple that really tremendously benefit. Like the M47 benefits so greatly from Heat FS that... It gets Heat FS. Yeah, it's got Heat FS. That I would feel very bad taking it away from it. But it got the job done before, too, so that's why I'm hesitant. But point of the matter is, I've never liked the 8.0 battle rating, and I still don't. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to get the Chieftain review because it is an interesting tank. It's a tank a lot of people are interested in. And I want to cover it because it is a fun tank. I've been playing it quite a bit. But it's just at a battle rating that I just hate. Because, and I think the reason I hate it is there's just a lot of useless things. Like, to me, I think, at least on the Chieftain, I think the Sabo rounds just really aren't that good. The penetration's very high, but, you know, all the factors of a Sabo round come into play, and they just don't do crazy amounts of damage in my experience. And they also just have a tendency of bouncing a lot. And doing no damage. Like, for some reason, leopards give me trouble. I mean, most of the time it's because I hit them in their gun mantle, and I guess the normalization of the shell isn't good enough, or something like that, where the shell bounces because it can't, you know, kind of find purchase on the hull or on the armor. But even then, you know, you start slinging Hesh, and the Hesh has such low muzzle velocity that I don't like it. But I don't know. Well, I'll talk about it in the Chieftain review. Back to the original topic. Actually, before we go back to the original topic, because this is how this type of thing works for me, I've been considering doing... some of you who have been around this channel for a long time will note that I enjoy the Far Cry games. Far Cry 3 was really one of my favorite games, and I played Far Cry 4 a lot. And I've been playing Far Cry Primal, and I've been thinking about doing a caveman run. Not really a run, just more like just running around and basically turn off all the HUD, turn off the minimap, don't use hunter vision, don't use the owl, and only leave on campaign markers, like mission markers. And don't use the minimap, but like no like reticule for aiming or anything like that. I want to try that. I think that could be fun, and I was going to make videos with it and just kind of see how it goes. Hopefully... it'll be kind of like if I'm having fun with it, I'll keep doing it. If I'm not, then I won't. But something to look out for if you're interested in that. That's something that could be coming soon. Yeah. But back to Kursk, because that was the original subject of this video. I think the two little towns... On this style of map, I actually really like the two little towns, and I'll explain why. I enjoy the idea that you can long-range snipe if you want, but if you're in a situation where you want to engage the objective, you blitz your way, you get your way into the town, and then you fight street to street, which is, in my opinion, one of the most exciting parts about War Thunder. One of the most, what's the right word for it? I don't want to say most fun, the most stressful almost. Some combination of fun and stressful. That's street fighting in War Thunder, because it's just so like you're checking every corner. If you want me to tell you what brings me back to War Thunder every time when I go on my little hiatuses, street fighting and things like that. Just that feeling you get of immersion is why I keep coming back. And I like the idea that the cap circles are surrounded by areas that allow for that type of fighting, so you can have these just gritty knife fights at close range, very cutthroat, very almost fast-paced at close range for the cap circles, for the objectives. And then you can still have those like long-range sniper duels that are also very fun, kind of supporting your guys as they say, rush into the town, but the town constricts line of sight so much that you can't just snipe from one ridge into the town. That's not really how it works. You have to go in there and engage. But I'm not a huge fan of like really big aggressive city maps, and that's mostly because I feel like you get lost. I like this style of map where it's open. Poland, I think, is a good example. I think Poland is a good combination, but there's almost it's almost too much city, if that makes any sense. I kind of dig this map. I think Kursk is a good map. I think it's pretty fun. I don't get to play it enough, so I don't know what like balances or anything like that, if one side has an advantage, but I don't know. It seems pretty good. So, I dig it. But the changes are primarily to, it looks like they've added some sort of extra rows of trees, maybe some more concealment. They've added the little villages, which is pretty cool. And I think that makes it a more dynamic map. Before it was just really wide open long range sniping. Now it's got a little bit of both. Well, it's a very much so a wide open long range sniping map, but at least there's some element of close quarter combat where you can really get into these just nitty gritty battles over objectives, which I think any map that can kind of push people towards an objective and cause just big fighting around that objective, I think is at its core a good map. And I think Kursk, with the addition of this village, kind of gets you closer to that, where okay, the enemy hold the cap, we need to get that cap. Well, okay, the only way we do is we have to go into the town, which is difficult because they're going to be posted up in the town. But if they can see you, you can see them. Your guys on the ridge can probably see them. And I think it's still, when you think about actual tank warfare, it's the defense usually wins. Or the defense inflicts such horrendous casualties that the attacking side very rarely wins. Or if they win, they do it at very high cost. And I think that type of engagement where you take the cap and then you try and defend it, and the enemy retakes, I think that kind of gets to the core of what sort of World War II tank warfare could be like. It's obviously not perfect because it's a video game. I almost don't want a extraordinarily accurate game in the sense of where all the ranges are right and the locations are exactly historical. That would be cool, but I don't know if it would be great in terms of gameplay because it would be very long. And War Thunder's already kind of a long game. But, I don't know. I kind of dig the changes to Kursk. I think they're not aggressive changes. I don't think they're changes where it's like, oh my god, this ruined the map for me. I don't think that's true at all. Now, that is a... Oof. I did shoot that Tiger too, but then he did annihilate the M19 that was cruising over there. The Tortoise is a very interesting tank, though. I want to do the review. That hurt. I want to do the review on it. I just haven't really found... Obviously, I wasn't playing very much, so I didn't gather the clips. But I'm going to get back on it because the Tortoise is a really interesting tank. It's I feel like it's primarily durable due to just the number of crew and its size. And I think a lot of people will say that as well. That part of the reason the Tortoise works really well is because there's 7 crew and they're spaced so far apart in the cabin. So it's actually very difficult to knock this tank out. You'll notice I have 1 crew member left. That means I'm still fighting, even though there's a like a Jagdpanther off to my side who's shooting me. Something else people have asked me is what I think about the last man standing mechanic. I get where the mechanic comes from. The idea where, fight to the last man. As long as there's 1 person in the tank, it can technically still operate in some capacity. Think about it. If the gunner's still alive, he knows how to load the cannon. He can do that. So he's back there, he loads the cannon, he jumps into his gunner seat, and he pulls the trigger, and he jumps back up, and he starts loading. I think that's reasonable. I do agree, however, that there are times when it's borderline game-breaking, in a sense, because it makes, sometimes it'll make it so hard to knock out a tank that is effectively dead. For example, my tank right here. I didn't know at the time that if I hold space, you saw it right there, I could switch my guy to a gunner. I didn't know it at this time, but you know, that's a thing. Um, so I can only drive right now, but I'm also still alive. You know, in theory, I could switch my guy to a gunner, load the gun, and fire, and potentially knock a tank out. And the enemy still has to devote resources to killing me that prior to this patch they would not have had to do. One crew member would not have kept the tank alive, and they could focus instead on this Centurion that's rolling up on his position, uh, all that stuff. So, in a way, I get what people are saying, and I kind of agree with them, where it makes some tanks incredibly durable when they're effectively dead. You know, I can't. I would find it odd if. Well, the problem is I can see the logic behind the mechanic, and I don't have a strong opinion about the mechanic yet. I don't. I guess the problem is I haven't run into a situation where it negatively, or even, I mean, in this case positively, but I didn't know how to change it to a gunner, and this really didn't mean anything. Them leaving me on one crew really didn't do anything for him or for my team. So I don't really see a cost or a benefit here. I mean, one benefit is I'm alive. I mean, I guess that's a good one. But I don't think I have a strong opinion either way about it. I think I'm net neutral to the idea of it being here or the idea of getting rid of it. I mean, ultimately, this is the Gaijin we're talking about. It's not going anywhere. They're going to make their changes and we're going to live with them. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. I've been Corny Swiss, and I'll see you next time.